We discovered a narrative that takes place along the Rogue River, a story rooted in universal life lessons that will help us all on our journeys to wisdom. We wish to guide and mentor our youth as we learn ways to use our resources wisely and live consciously and in harmony with all life. We focus on teaching how to learn, not what to learn. As we experience the beauty and perfection of our natural world, together we build a new paradigm for coexisting peacefully and in balance on our planet. What is important is we learn to come together in service and respectfully dialogue with one another. We need to honor one another's uniqueness and celebrate our humanity. In 1996, Phil Hart, director of the Four-Way Community Foundation for many years and past president of Rotary, and I founded the Table Rock Foundation, a private nonprofit with the mission to draw on the wisdom of the past and empower future generations to live in harmony with each other and the earth. From 1997 to 2006, Table Rock Foundation supported the salmon ceremony with Grandmother Aggie, bringing an ancient tribal tradition back to the land. The list goes on and on of various camps that have been offered. The camps have incorporated community leaders who speak to the young participants on various topics, including team building skills, teachings and lessons of the indigenous people, and the importance of community service. We have camps designed and offered to youth dealing with grief, trauma, or abuse, and help them in their healing process, and to empower and encourage them to stay in school. To learn more about all these amazing events and activities with Table Rock Foundation, I invite you to visit www.tablerockfoundation.org. So where does the Table Rock Foundation go from here? Collaborating with my good brother David West and others in the community, we will be offering a program called Train the Trainers, Heal the Healers, and Teach the Teachers. And we will continue our multi-generational and multicultural purpose in making this a world that works for us all, united as one. I will continue to provide a space at Enchanted Forest on our sacred mountain where young people will continue to come to be healed and respected. Our camps will continue with new life and commitment, with my grandchildren sitting on the board of directors, and I will have extended family to help me continue creating harmony and beauty in my space. My legacy after I'm gone, I look for a world where everyone has a chance to become the best version of themselves, where our systems and policies create a world that works for us all. I think the best way to sum it up is in the lyrics of John Lennon's Imagine. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. I invite you all to share my dream. Thank you.
It is our pleasure to present to Brenda today two things. First, a check to the charity of her choice, $10,000 for the Table Rock Foundation. Thank you. Okay, wait. Turn this way. Let Lori get a shot. Turn over. Say, see Lori. Say, smile. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Chris Bristol from the Daily Courier. Thank you very much. And now I have a special personal gift for you, and I have a surprise presenter. Della Mings is another badass old lady from Tequilma. She's very, very dear to me, and she has made for Brenda a special gift.
Well, I'll have to tell you how this happened. No. Okay, Kate came to me and said, Della, I would like you to commission you to make something for Brenda. Wait, I would like you to commission you to make something for somebody. And I said, I don't do that. I don't ever work on a commission. I would cost way too much. And then she said, well, this is for Brenda Patton. And I said, Brenda Patton? I can do that. So I am going to tell you, Brenda, that I spent hours lovingly working on this gift for you, and you will best feel my love, I hate to tell you, through your boons. I mean, not many people feel love for through their boons, but in this case, I hope you will, and whenever you sit on it with anybody else, I hope the love comes to them too. Can we hold it up so they can see this?
Being shown.
Oh, okay. So anyway, and Kate told me specifically it had to be an outdoor bench, and I do think this one, hopefully not from just you, but will hold at least 400 pounds.
We envisioned it as something that you could put on your land, maybe by your koi pond, and you will see that, as the audience can see right now, there's a plaque on here that says the Four-Way Community Foundation honors Rainbow Grandmother Brenda Patton with this 2022 Distinguished Service Award for her abundant love and tireless devotion to youth, forests, and their shared futures. Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you so much. And now, as we escort Brenda down, we'd like to ask Brandis Rojo, our board member, to come up and introduce our keynote speaker, Michelle Wild Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Brandis Rojo, Four-Way Community Foundation board member. Michelle Wild Anderson writes and teaches in the areas of poverty and inequality, local government law, housing, and environmental justice. Her new book, The Fight to Save the Town, Reimagining Discarded America, focuses on the dismantling and rebuilding of local government in high-poverty communities and features Josephine County. The book profiles 4 U.S. communities that are progressing on some of the hardest challenges of American poverty today. Places with gutted public services where ordinary people are the unsung heroes who are transforming their neighborhoods. Those of us who live in Josephine County know very well that we can do a lot with a small group of folks who have committed heart and soul to their community. Michelle is passionate about local government, and her research has focused on the legal tools designed to help city and county governments that are facing high levels of poverty as well as a budget crisis. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, Yale Law Journal, and other publications. The Fight to Save the Town, Reimagining Discarded America is available for checkout in multiple formats at Josephine Community Library or for purchase at our local bookstore, Oregon Books and Games. Please join me in welcoming Professor Michelle Wild Anderson to Grants Pass and to Four-Way Community Foundation's 2022 Celebration of Community Spirit.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. Thank you. Wow. I am so glad to be here. This is an incredible space, from the twinkling fairy lights to the really classy silk napkins, to the cupcakes, to the people, to the You Matter card, to the ladies from Takilma. I mean, this has been quite an evening. I'm so glad to be here. I thought I'd start by just thanking Kate Dwyer more personally in the same terms that I used when I referred to her back. Where are you sitting, Kate? I'm kind of blinded. There you are. Kate came up to Powell's Books in Portland to talk a little bit about the book with me. And in the course of that conversation, we talked a lot about Kate's work, both her day jobs and her incredible volunteerism and just her networks, what I think Kate herself once called her busybody spirit, to sort of link lots of different people. And so we talked about this in Portland, and my parting words of advice for the people assembled were to find your Kate Dwyer. You found yours, so my day job is to be a teacher, so I give you an A+ for the event, and I give you all an A+ for gathering in this incredible space together. So I wanted to also thank, just in general, the many people in this room who spent time with me in writing this book, and many who are outside this room. I did 250 interviews total in all the places that I worked on, and many were here in Grants Pass and in Cave Junction and really across the county. And people really trusted me and made a place for me to shadow some of the amazing work that's gone on here. So you let me in, and that was an incredible act of trust. And all I can say here is that I hope I got it right. It made me very nervous to come here tonight and sort of face the people about whom the Josephine chapter was written. I hope we can engage in ongoing conversations about the things that I got right, the things that I missed, and just the larger story of your community. It really belongs to you, and I kind of sidecarred up for a while to celebrate it. I thought I would start, I want to say a few more substantive things, just reflecting back to you what was so special to me about Josephine and what I tell other people about your county when you're not listening. So I thought I'd say a little bit of that. But first, I just wanted to give a more personal introduction, because it is strange, this person from San Francisco and Stanford who wrote about your hometown. So I feel like I need to kind of show my cards just a little bit so that it's not quite so strange. I have 5 generations of roots in rural California, which has always drawn me to rural people and places, whether in the Black South or in the California interior or at the US-Mexico border. And I was drawn to Josephine and the Pacific Northwest, I think in some ways from that family story. But I also was brought to Josephine more specifically because Paul Diller, who's an amazing local government professor at Willamette Law School, had this gathering in 2014 where he brought a bunch of people together to focus on the fiscal crisis going on in all the timber counties. And at that gathering, a bunch of us had a chance to really think about the challenges here in Oregon. And in particular, that gathering got me thinking more and more about basically what I do for a living as an academic, as a teacher and a writer, about places that are essentially broke governmentally, but where the local government is responsible for a lot of poverty. And that combination between carrying a lot of poverty in your community and also being strained in unprecedented fiscal ways is a challenge that I sort of gathered around in this book. And in early days, I worked a little bit on lots of timber counties, but Josephine just kept sort of rising to the top for me and sort of kept being a place that really captured my imagination. And so I want to reflect back to you something that you know. In the book, I tell people who don't know Josephine about your incredible tall trees and wild rivers, your boom and bust economy, your rain and your sun. But the thing that made Josephine so irresistible to me, and also the thing that I think makes your civic project so hard, I tried to capture in this paragraph of the book, which says, Rural Josephine County has long attracted people looking for more than fertile land. They wanted to escape things: taxes, suburban materialism, child support debt, homophobia, arrest warrants, the urban cost of living, day jobs, nuclear annihilation, clothing, and California. They came to... Well, so maybe I got it right. Wow, I worked so hard on that. But I love this little last piece of it. They came to find liberty off the grid and in the forest, since others did too. They found a freedom lacking social conformity. And this is the yummy part. It was from a local publisher in 1907 who said about, it was rooted in Grants Pass, was talking about Josephine County. We all celebrate to our own peculiar temperaments. I love that quote. So you have this fascinating mix of people here, from libertarians to homesteaders, retirees to runaways, the far left and the far right. Needless to say, not a lot of places in America contain the full spectrum of modern polarization, and y'all do. Sometimes, this was not in my remarks, and I promised myself I wasn't going to say it, but here we go. Do you remember the Dos Equis beer ad with the most interesting man in the universe? I always thought Josephine the most interesting county in America. I don't know. So this is a tough place to hold people together, but I feel like that's the American project, isn't it? To hold a lot of different kind of people together. So it was an incredible privilege to sort of learn about your civic culture. The plot of the chapter is about the May 2017 levy elections and a round of votes that went on at that time, and sort of the run-up to that election and some of the aftermath beyond it. And as I say to outsiders, it is, to me, a look at how to run a grassroots pro-tax campaign in one of the most anti-government places in America. Again, important business that America has to learn from this place. And I think, to me, this chapter is named Man in the Arena, which is named after none other than your own Sheriff Daniels' screensaver. And as you know, and I have the page here, I should have memorized this. As you know, Man in the Arena is a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, who gave a speech called the Man in the Arena speech, celebrating the man who is not just a critic, but who, and here's Teddy Roosevelt's quote, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. And that spirit was not only the spirit of your sheriff, but also, I think, this larger county that has, taken steps forward and retreated back sometimes, and really sort of struggled to hold this larger community and its challenges together. So the lessons that I take away from Josephine and that I share with other people in talking about what I got to see here is that I think that so many in this room and your leaders didn't hide from people's skepticism in government. And what I think in many parts of this country are really our rot in our relationship to government. And I believe, I'm a local government scholar, as you heard, and so I believe that so much of that relationship to government, so much of that faith in government is sort of built or torn in our local communities. And to me, the story of Josephine is not hiding from that skepticism, but rather going toward it and rebuilding trust from a place of honesty. And to me, the story in the chapter is of Kate Dwyer and, Kate Dwyer's and others' town halls, bringing Sheriff Daniel and other public officials to the people, including down to the Illinois Valley, which I think was neglected in some ways in regional politics, and allowing people to really vent some of their frustration with government, some of their some misinformation in some cases that they had about local government, but also to learn how things work. And here again, my hat as a teacher, this is an important part of civics in general. We have to understand how government works so that we can be honest about what we can expect from it, so we can be honest about how to hold it accountable, and so that we can reinvest in it going forward as our needs change. And it's about the supervisors who help to explain in more minute detail how government collects and spends taxes. It's about the voluntary patrols that grew up in Josephine County, really, as I understand them, as a form of mutual aid when the sheriff's department cuts had gotten the deepest. But so too is about those leaders' honesty about the limits of those patrols, whether it was because of very high volunteer turnover, burdensome training, the very serious risk of hotheads, the confusion and dangers of confrontation, and most of all, the very unmet need from this mishmash of voluntary patrols around the county. And the story is very much about Kate Lasky's brilliant insights from the government. You have some uncommon wisdom in this place, and Kate Lasky also belongs on that list. And so here I've got to read a moment from Kate. This is something I talk about. I use your name all over the place. I've done like 50 podcasts. I always mention this quote because it's so moving to me. But this is a moment, y'all remember when the public library had shut down and reopened as a nonprofit, and there was a moment in 2011 where the circuitry, the lighting failed in the main branch. And there was a conversation about whether they should spend down all their last reserve funds to repair the circuitry, or should instead make people use flashlights to really, show people just how bad it was and how important the levee was. And this moment of just incredible wisdom to me is when Kate and her board really determined together that they couldn't actually progress under the banner, "Save us, we're dying." Is that fair? I mean, that's kind of a paraphrase. We're getting to your quote. This is an exact quote in a minute. But Kate thought that it would feed into a destructive psychology she had observed in town, a sort of fatalistic acceptance that the needs were so dire that things couldn't get better. And this deeper, even more fatalistic acceptance that maybe residents didn't deserve better. And this is reading from the chapter. In a democracy, Lasky reflected, aren't we the government? It's supposed to serve us, she said. If it's us and then we tear it down, what does that say? Lasky and the library board took a stand. We're going to invest in ourselves no matter what, they said. The risk that people would think the library was rich, they thought, was outweighed by the hope that with a good library would help people in the community feel that they were rich. So they fixed the overhead lights. Then they fundraised to renovate the main library's reading nook for children. Then volunteers made 14,000 phone calls to voters on a ballot measure to restore public funding to the library and open hours at the rural branches. After years of losing at the ballot box, they won. It was just one of the victories heading their way. I mean, I cannot tell you how often the words 14,000 phone calls have come out of my mouth because they're really kind of extraordinary. And for those of you who read Tocqueville in college, or you really thought about sort of the roots and the stories we have about American democracy, you will recognize this as a kind of magnificent demonstration of a modern act of an outpouring, really, of democracy. And this was true around the work that so many organizers, so many volunteers in this room did in those levy elections and subsequently. So I know for all of you, these are all ordinary people. These are things that maybe you take for granted, But for me as an outsider, and I think for other readers who are outsiders, this is what democracy looks like. And the other thing that I think is so extraordinary about Josephine is, and really all of the places in this book, is that this is what it looks like to really show up for the most vulnerable members.